Good afternoon, welcome to the shop. With our gantry crane done, we've finally been able to get pieces put back on the lathe. And I was in such a hurry, I forgot to turn the camera on, putting on the saddle. Maybe it'll have to come off again, maybe not, who knows. But I couldn't help myself, had to put it on there. So I got it on here, everything went on like a champ. And when we first picked up the lathe, it was stuck. We couldn't even get it to move. And now, I mean, it's just, you know, this part here probably weighs a good 100 pounds. I mean, it's ridiculously heavy, and it flows, it goes really smooth now. So I just stuck some whey oil down on it, put it on here, and you can move it pretty easy with one hand. I mean, it's still, you know, it's still pretty heavy, but it moves really, really good. So, and it's a little cool out here. It's probably, I don't know, 40, I don't know, probably in the 50s, I'd say. But I'm very pleased with it. I was really, really glad that went as good as it did. But I have the gearbox. I moved it from the other end of the table to this end of the table, and it's hanging by the gantry crane right now. And what I'm doing is I'm getting ready to cut the new felt for the oil wicks that go in the top of the gearbox, where it just leaches it down onto the gears. So I've got that due, and we're just going to slowly start putting pieces on it. So I don't know how to do these videos, if I should do it all, should I speed it up? I think I'm just going to film everything I can, and I think I'm just going to edit them together and see what looks the best. I know it gets a little boring, maybe going a little fast. Maybe I'll just go half the speed or something like that to speed it up, because there's a lot of, you know, putting stuff on. I'll tell you, with this right here, the saddle went on, and then the keeper part underneath it's a pain in the butt to get that thing on. So putting the saddle on and getting it, you know, where it needed to go is nothing, but putting this bottom piece on, whew, it's a little harder. So I went and got some better tools for doing that, and at Allen wrench with a ball head with a long extension, and now I can do it through the casting. So in case that has to come back off, you know, we'll do that. But other than that, I put that piece on the first time, and then I slid it all the way down to the end, and I said, well, shoot, I could have just put it on there and slid it on there, and it went on like a charm, other than being heavy and a little awkward for one person. But anyway, I'm going to reposition the camera. We're going to get over here by the, I have a surface plate on the big table. Not going to use it to cut with, but I have some wicking and all the stuff that I bought months ago from McMaster Car, and so I'm going to get those things cut, and we'll just start getting things put together and moved over here. So it's getting there. So this is some of the felt pad that we bought. It's very dense, very thick, very good quality. It seemed like it was a pain in the butt to cut. So the first pair of scissors that I got was just a pair that's been laying in the shop for 20 years. It only lasted, I think, through this one cut, and they broke. So had to go back into the house and get the good shears, and this is one that I should have been using to begin with. They worked really, really well. So there we go. There's one. And what I think I'm going to do is I'm going to get a small pail or a cup or something, and put some of the, I have to look back up to see what oil it takes. It's either the whey oil or the standard 30 weight, but either one. I'll make a cup of it and just stick it in there and let it soak up for a couple days, and then I'll stick it inside the where the gearbox thing goes, so it'll start wicking down. That way it won't be so dry, and I won't ever take a chance of running those gears dry. So that's one. Let's go on to the next one. I like this felt. McMaster Car's been a lifesaver on all this little stuff. I really got to say, I'm impressed with their supply, or assortment of supplies, I should say. So I bought a pad of this 3/8, and I also got a pad of 1/4 too. I might still cut out another 1/4 if there's room in there, and another one, yeah, the 1/4 inch, and put it on top. That way, if you ever forget the oil, it maybe have a little more reservoir, who knows. But I got plenty of that and plenty of the felt cording too. So. And I don't know why this corner is snipped off. I couldn't find anything, but I'm going to snip it off anyway. Alright, so there's the two pieces. Ready to go. Now let's go over here and dry fit it. So this one goes here.
Machine surfaces. This surface here, the outside welding, and this inner are concentric of each other, at least from my measurement.
That fits really good. Covers up all the holes. And then this one goes in. This one might be a little wide. Yeah, that's a hair wide. Let me grab them shears real quick.
Check the face and check the bore compared to the OD here. Let me get you in on this indicator a bit. So it's kind of hard to read this space with all the damage.
Let's do this side here.
But all I'm looking at is the maximum.
Matter of fact, I'm going to back cut it a little bit since it's a radius back there in the casting.
Jerking the needle all around. I'm just going around here, and what I'm seeing is about 1.5 thou.
Now that looks pretty good too.
Maybe slightly more.
So,
Clean surfaces. We're within a couple thou. Pretty easy, I think. So I'm happy with that. Now let's check the face.
So all the holes are up here in the top.
Now let's check the bore.
Yeah, that's going to work good.
So our bore run out here is pretty good.
All right, so that's it. So now I reckon I'm going to set up a wider shot. We're going to re-sling this thing, and we're going to try and attempt to get this thing on. Like I said, I'll go ahead and oil all the gears down really, really good, and then that way I know it won't, be dry. We'll probably use whey oil on it for now. It's a little more sticky, and then I'll find out for sure what these are, and I'll soak those in it. So let me reset up and get the camera reset up, and we'll move back around. So here we are back at the lathe. I'm a pretty big believer in anti-seize, so I use it just about on everything. And if this lathe ever has to come apart, the guy that's going to do it after this will hopefully thank me for it. But I coat all the parts down, or all the bolts down with anti-seize. And I probably put too much on these. In the future, I'll probably just use a different brush. The first one always has so much more on it than the second one. But, just coat the bolts, in the last couple threads pretty good. And it just ensures that the parts will come apart next time somebody has to take it apart. Definitely a case of a little dabble do you, that's for sure. So I set them all in on the trays or out of the way. I thought I had them out of the way, but the corner of the gearbox kind of sits into the chip pan, and I had them pinched and had to move some stuff. But you'll see. The gantry crane works great. That's all I can say. This gearbox is every bit of 150 pounds. It's heavy, so we just slung it up with some slings and manhandled in there. You can see where the feed rod is in the way, and I just didn't notice it. So once we figure it out and get all that stuff out of the way, it went a lot smoother. But you can see my struggles here. And so far, the hardest thing for me so far putting the lathe back together, since it was so long since we took it apart, is figuring out where all the nuts and bolts went back in it. And here I'm using my 12-volt impact driver just because it doesn't have a lot of power. So I use it to start a lot of bolts with. So it may look like I'm hammering down on some of these nuts or these bolts getting them in, but believe me, it's not doing anything. I just want it to get started, and then when you're one man show, it's hard to hold all this stuff and get it started. So you want it to get it started. So once it starts, it usually engages really good. Have good luck. Never stripped one with the 12-volt model. I don't use the 20-volt, that's for sure. But once you get started, you're in the right, hole. It just drives it in there. So on the gearbox, there's 4 different size screws. Really long one, an extra long one, and then the 2 shorter ones. The 2 shorter ones, you got to be really, really careful that because you can't see. The one on the left top, you can, but the other ones, you got to be pretty careful how you get them started, because they'll fall out in the gearbox, and you got to take the gearbox back off to get the bolt back out. So here I'm just measuring to make sure I could get it in there, and with the ball end on it, you see how the fastener just droops off to the side, and so I knew that wasn't going to work. That's why I tried it on the left-hand side. I can get down in the top through the opening in the top of the gearbox if I need a magnetic. We'll get it out of there. But if I'd have dropped it in the right-hand side, that was the end of it. I'd had to take the gearbox back off. So, but with the crane, it made all this much, much, much easier. So I went and got just a regular hex driver with the square shoulders to get it started. Once I got it started, I really wasn't that worried about it. You can feel the hole in there, big thread, so it goes in very easily. And this one you can see. So I just started it in the hole, found the hole in the back, and it went right in. No questions asked. So, and after I had that in there, then I went back with my impact driver and drove them home. And then I'll go back and I'll use that angled, just regular old Allen wrench, and put a little oomph on it and make sure everything's good to go. And the only T-handle I had was not quite long enough to make it in here, so I use a square handle. Then I use the old box end wrench trick to put a little more leverage on it. I don't know if it needed it, but they were almost, not say hard, but they were fairly hard to get out. So we'll put them fairly hard in there. Making sure everything worked a little free before I decided to crank down on everything. So after this, the next part that go on is the apron, and that one's going to probably be a little tougher. Getting it slung up and lifted and then placed back underneath the saddle, it's going to be a challenge, but we'll put it on a piece at a time. So it went on no problem. So, and then, decided to clean it up a little bit. And all this is WD-40. And we'll just wipe it down really good. A little bit of rust inhibitor and make it shine a little bit. But that'll do it for now. So until next time, see ya.